Good evening. My name is Cairns. I am a public information officer with the Rocky Mountain Critical Complex Incident Management Team 3. And I'd like to welcome you very much. Tonight, we're so glad so many of you were able to come out tonight. This whole meeting is being recorded, and it won't be posted until after the meeting. It will be posted on Facebook and a YouTube channel. Both those links are on that QR code. You can get it that you received when you walked in. So on our meeting, the way it will happen, we will have speakers come one at a time and talk to you about the fire, talk about the weather, the operations, the evacuations, evacuation services, and also you get to hear from our incident commander and the forest supervisor of the Bighorn National Forest. After everybody has presented, then you will have an opportunity to go to the back. If you kind of look back on the back, you'll see there's some placards that are taped to the wall. These are different cooperators that are here and will be able to answer any of your questions if you have any, and you can just discuss things with them one-on-one. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get started. To kick us off will be the Bighorn National Forest Forest Supervisor, Andrew Johnson.
Thanks, Cass. Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for coming. And on behalf of all of the firefighters and aviators who have been fighting the elk fire for more than 2 weeks now, thank you so much for your continued support and appreciation and patience as we deal with what have been really unprecedented weather conditions and unprecedented fire behavior on the Bighorn National Forest. So I hope that all of you have been taking advantage of the great flow of information that has been coming from the team and from the forest, trying to get you the latest and greatest information. And we're going to talk about kind of some of the things that you have heard in those messages and some of the things that we've talked about at our prior 2 meetings. So some of you have come to these before. You might hear me say the same thing. But it's important, so we'll repeat it. So when I say that we're facing unprecedented fire behavior and unprecedented conditions on the Bighorn National Forest, we truly are. This doesn't feel like a normal October here in our community. It's hotter, it's drier, the relative humidities are lower. We've had these extreme wind events, back-to-back wind events, and in the night, I feel like someone said to me the other day, this fire is behaving like a teenager. It lays down and sleeps during the day and gets unruly at night. And that's not good. That's been difficult. In the last 100 years or so of fire history on the Bighorn National Forest, the largest wildfire that the forest has experienced was roughly 18,000 acres. Probably took about a month and a half to get to that size. This fire grew 25,000 acres in a matter of hours the other night. So we really are dealing with difficult conditions. And we've been on the defense since the start. When we first got a report of the smoke and dispatched folks at 8:30 in the morning 2 Fridays ago and sent a 20-person hand crew, 2 engines, an air attack aircraft we had pre-positioned in Sheridan for just this sort of thing, 2 helicopters. We were on the defense then, and we were on the defense until the last few days. But things have changed. The weather has slowed down. The team is doing amazing work, and I feel like we're finally on the offense. We are taking actions that are designed to protect the critical values at risk that we've identified, and those are very first and foremost all human lives and all of your property, our backyard, and our drinking water. Those are critical for all of us who live here in these communities, in Sheridan and Bighorn and Story and Dayton and Manchester, all of us along the mountain face. Those are critical values to us, and we have tasked the team, and they are doing a great job in prioritizing and taking actions to protect those critical values. We are also focused on protecting all that great recreation infrastructure and private cabins from Sibley Lake on, Black Mountain Road, Sibley Lake, up to Burgess Junction. And of course, also focused on, at the far side of the fire, the values and cabins in Little Bighorn Canyon. So that's a long stretch. Those of you who know the Bighorns know that from Big Goose all the way up to Little Bighorn's a long ways. This is a large fire, and it's going to take a long time, unfortunately, to bring this to a close. So I ask as we move forward for your continued support and patience as we, fight through this with no real chance of moisture in the near term. But we are taking those strategic actions that I think are going to reduce risk to those critical values. Some of the things that we are going to have to do are probably going to involve putting some fire on the ground, putting some more smoke in the air to steal fuel from this fire when it's appropriate, when we can do it on our terms, and try to bring this to a close sooner. So again, thank you, everybody, and be more than happy to talk to you one-on-one or in groups after this. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Our next speaker is your Sheridan County Sheriff, Levi Dominguez.
Well, good evening, everybody. First, just as Andrew said, I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. I also want to thank, this team and the PIO team. They kind of work endlessly behind the scenes to put out great information to all of you so you have the most up-to-date information. There's some other folks out there, too, a part of this team, that don't get a lot of the recognition as well. When you talk about, like where you get these maps from, the GIS team, we work closely with them to make sure the maps come out. We work close with like logistics and planning and finance and, the liaisons for the team that are making a lot of phone calls on our behalf so that way we can do the work that we need to do throughout this fire. And so I just want to thank them for all that, and I know I missed a lot of folks. But I also want to thank, our Sheridan Dispatch Center, the City of Sheridan Dispatch Center. Early on in this fire, especially Sunday morning through Sunday evening when that fire blew up, elk fire blew up, they were taking lots of phone calls, dispatching fire folks into that area. With that wind event, Tuesday evening, the next wind event, the dispatch center is when the team was coming in, getting their communications center for the fire put together. The dispatch center did an amazing job. So I just want to thank them along with our Sheridan area search and rescue who are runners for us, did a lot of stuff for us out in the Tongue River Valley community. And I greatly appreciate them for doing that as well. On Sunday evening, I think was our last public meeting that we had in the Tongue River Valley. I spoke to kind of the hardships that our county has faced this year. And to say, it's been difficult is an understatement. Early on, we had a line of duty death with a Sheridan police officer, Sergeant Nevada Krinke, when he was shot and killed. Earlier in the summer, we had the fires that were ripping in the eastern part of the county, and now the elk fire. And our county, we're trying to pick back up and build and get back together. But all of you being here, showing up, being a great neighbor, helping one another, helping those that have been affected by this fire has been super tremendous outpouring of support to everyone. And I appreciate that. I'm proud of that. I say I would never want to work in public safety as a law enforcement officer in any other county but Sheridan County because all of you standing out here, and I appreciate that. That goes on to the Bighorn, the Bighorn community area. I think I heard that when there was uncertainty if the Tongue River High School was going to be able to do their homecoming stuff this week, that you offered and invited them over here. Never would we have imagined that we're having a public meeting about the elk fire here in the Bighorn community, but we're doing things to be proactive in how we get in front of this fire and how to give you the information and all the evacuation stuff that we go into. So I'm going to talk about evacuations this evening. And before I get to the map, I just want to say that, this map that's behind me, it's ever changing constantly. It's because how the fire is moving, the runs that it made Sunday, Tuesday, Friday night, we're constantly changing this map. We're working with the team every morning to talk about it. When the fire's activity is it increased and moving, we're talking amongst the team, sometimes multiple times a day. 2 in the morning, we're up together trying to figure out where's the next step. What other area in the county are we going to have to put in some sort of evacuation status? And that's dictated by our number one goal, which is human safety, human life, and that includes public safety, that includes firefighting safety. And when we put these evacuation statuses into place, I don't take those decisions lightly. Those decisions have a lot of thought process that goes into it. And again, it's for that safety of everybody involved, the public, the firefighter safety. And I don't take it lightly on the back end when we are starting to reduce some of these evacuation areas. The thought process goes into that as well. And we've had some wins up in the northwestern part of the fire of kind of reducing some of that. So when you're looking, and some of you have been to some of these meetings, but we're kind of 3 statuses that I want to go over, which is ready, set, and go. And if you look here, ready is indicated green on the map, okay? You'll see green around the map, and that indicates that fire's coming the direction in your area. There's the propensity that fire could get there, the propensity that you may be elevated potentially up into a set status. So you have to start thinking about what that looks like. You have to be ready. A set status is the next elevation, and that's what you see yellow indicated on the map. That set status indicates that you need to be prepared to evacuate. You need to have the things in order to be ready to evacuate and leave in a moment's notice if you're elevated to a go status, which a go status is, as you can see, that's indicated by red on the map, and that means you need to evacuate immediately when we're looking at that. So if you can look on this map, you can see right now that across the length of our county, from north to south, we have all been affected by this fire in one way or another. We have all been put into some sort of status along the face of the mountain, from the northern end all the way down into the Story end, which means some of our law enforcement resources have been tapped a little bit. And I just want to thank those local law enforcement resources, Wyoming Highway Patrol, Game and Fish, the Forest Service, BLM, our partners with the Sheridan Police Department. They've offered to take calls around the city, kind of in the closer part, so that way our deputies can be out along this fire. Our partners in the northern part in Montana, BIA and Bighorn County Sheriff's Office in Montana, have helped us tremendously. To the west, Bighorn County Sheriff's Office in Wyoming has helped us to the west part of the fire. We couldn't do this without all their support, and so I thank them for that. But moving forward, when we talk about these ready, set, go statuses and what that looks like, how are you going to get alerted with those? If you live in an area that is moved into a ready status, we've got time, we still have time. That will be put out amongst media releases, the social media platforms that you're seeing, the Bighorn National Forest Service, the Sheridan County Sheriff's Office Facebook page, the Sheridan County government page. That's where you'll see that. We have time, so I encourage you to go to those pages, and you're going to see where those areas have been moved into some sort of evacuation status. When we get into a set status now, when we're starting to look kind of in the southern part, southeastern part of the area where we're at, currently at, when that area goes into a set status, we still have time to be prepared to evacuate. What you'll see is that and this is specific, I'll talk about Story in just a second. We're going to have a kind of a different model for Story moving into a set, but other areas other than Story that go into a set status, into that yellow, there'll be media releases, social media posts to let that know, and we'll have lots and lots of law enforcement presence in those areas, so that way if they see somebody saying, they can let the community know, yes, you are now in a set status, you need to be prepared to evacuate. When we go into a go status in any area moving forward, that you need to evacuate immediately, we will use what's called an IPAWS alert, which is an integrated public alert and warning system. You don't have to sign up for this. This is those amber alerts that you get on your phone that will be dinging and giving you those alerts. That's what that system is. Our dispatch center, Sheridan Dispatch Center, we can utilize that, and we can geofence a certain area. So you'll get an alert if you go into a go status in those areas. And it'll be some sort of message like, the red grade area is now in a go status. You need to evacuate immediately. There'll be heavy law enforcement presence in the area. When you're in a go status, we'll have lots of law enforcement presence in the area. More than likely, we'll have our lights on, sirens going, using our PA system, driving up the roads in the areas saying, you are now in a go status, you need to evacuate. With that, and when we're looking at that, what we've come across when Dayton was moved into a set status, it was Friday night, early Saturday morning, we used the IPAWS system. And using that, there are some glitches in it. And it's a good glitch because it reaches a little further than what we want. So I think some folks in Sheridan got that alerting system. Some folks off of Soldier Creek got that, which is okay. We'd rather it reach further than not miss somebody. That IPAWS system, too, is not just cell phones. So everybody, who has cell phones, right? Yeah, pretty much everybody, right? Who has a landline? Yeah, some folks. It'll still hit your landline, TV, radio. It'll hit all of those when we're looking at that, and which is really great. But sometimes it reaches a little further. Again, if you get that message, I encourage you to wake up, read it, read the message, and then get online and look at the websites that we have put together, and there'll be a very good description of what areas have gone into a set or a go status. When we get down into the Story area, it's very heavily populated in that area, in the Story area. It's a one-way in, one-way out, and the folks in Story know that, and they live there. So if the Story area is moved into a set status in the Story area, we will use the iPause alert. And there'll be lots of law enforcement presence in the area to answer questions saying, you are in a set status, you need to be prepared to evacuate. If you go into a go status in the Story community, an iPause alert will be put out. And then there'll be lots of law enforcement presence in the community. Lights, sirens, PA systems, those things. Sorry, I just have to look at my notes real quick. So that's where we're at with the ready, set, go status. Moving on to road closures, and we start to look at the map. I'm going to go over that real quick. When we look at the map, you'll see again from the north end to the south end of the county. There's lots of road closures that are around the county. We just released another information to show all of the road closures. There, if you look on the map, they're indicated by blue, white, red X's on the map. Again, those road closures are put into place for the firefighter safety so they can travel safely to and from along the fire, and also for the ranchers in that community to move cattle and things like that and livestock. It's also for the folks that live in that area so they can be safe as well, because we don't want a lot of traffic of folks coming in trying to look at the fire and things. We've got one hard closure, road closure in Sheridan County, and that's red grade. That is a hard closure. That means nobody is allowed up there, not even folks that have cabins up there right now. So nobody's allowed up there other than fire and emergency personnel. That's because we have the fire resources are up there. They're putting in a lot of line in that area and lots of heavy equipment. We don't want folks to get injured or get trapped up there while they're working on that. So please, we just ask for your patience with that. It's for the best. It's for that. So if we can get to a place where that is a hard road closure there. I'm going to talk a little bit about kind of the map in itself. And we're going to just talk a little bit kind of as we look in the kind of the southeastern portion of the fire. But just a couple things. Like I mentioned, we've had some winds up in the northwest of the fire. We've been able to move some of these areas. A lot of these areas that you see in yellow in a set, they were red, a handful of days ago. We've seen them reduced to a set status. We've seen some of them reduced to a ready status. We've seen some of them in the Columbus and Smith Creek area into a no status, which is great. But we're still in a go status when we're looking down here south of Eaton's Ranch Road, right in here, west of all of Becton Road, all the way south to the Becton Big Goose intersection, and then west of Big Goose down to where Rapid Creek, and then down into the Rapid Creek area west of Rapid Creek, and then north of the end of Rapid Creek up into the base of the mountain and into the Forest Service boundary. There's a lot of fire activity still in there. There's a lot of firefighting operations in there. There's a lot of air resources in there that are fighting the fire. So we're just asking the public and those folks to stay out of that area. Moving further south, and then again east of that, east of Rapid Creek Road, east of Big Goose Road, and east of Becton Road are in a ready status. When we look down south of the end of Rapid Creek Road, which includes the Rapid Creek Ranch, and kind of at a southeasterly portion to the Bear Gulch Road, and kind of down as it ties in with Hidden Valley Ranch, and then moves west along into the Beartooth Cabin Owners Association, the private cabin owners association up in the mountain, TP, Hellsburg, Stumpy Ridge, those areas, those are all in a set status right now. And then as we move further southeast into the story that is in a ready status. Again, looking at this, why are we doing this? We saw the runs that it made on Sunday, Tuesday, and Friday evenings. We're being prepared to give everybody enough time if things, if that fire progresses. Lastly, I want to talk about the go areas. And that's if the go area, you live in a go area, or you find yourself in a go area. I just would ask that everybody stay out of that area, especially if there's active fire, especially if there's active firefighting operations going on in that area. Because when we get somebody, a civilian or private property owner that's in those go areas and we have firefighters in there with active fire, what you're doing is you're taking the focus from the firefighters who are trying to focus on protecting the structures, the homes, and all the structures around there. You're taking that focus away, and their focus is now on you. It's now on your safety. So there's a potential that it's a huge distraction to the firefighters, and it's a huge hindering to the firefighting operations. So please stay out of those areas, because their focus is on protecting those structures, protecting the homes in that area. But if you're in there, their focus becomes you and your safety. I just want to thank, again, everybody for being here, for caring about your community, for your cooperation. It means a lot. I will be here afterwards, and if you have questions about evacuations, I'll certainly go over that. So thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff. Our next speaker is your Sheridan County Emergency Manager, Jesse Ludikhuize.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming out tonight so that we can provide this valuable and important information for you. Sheriff Dominguez spent a lot of time talking about evacuations and the different statuses here. Part of my job with Sheridan County is to ensure that we have a safe place for you all to go if you are in one of those evacuation statuses. So we do have a shelter that is still operational. It is at the Sheridan Fairgrounds. It is in the exhibit hall. And we are taking a lot of pets, livestock, and people if they're needed. Currently, we haven't had a need within the shelter, so it's currently on a standby status, which means that if anybody needs it, they can go there. There's a phone number, which happens to be my number, so don't share it. And also, that number on there, you can call anytime, and then we will make sure to get that shelter open right away. So it's just on standby just because there's not been a need. So, but we will continue to keep that open until this event is over and provide that service to you. However, I want to go over specifically when we're talking about people with special needs and medical needs. So I'm talking about the people that you need extra time to get on the airline, not the Southwest airline because you want a better seating position. I'm talking about the people that actually need the extra time. So those individuals, for example, if you need time and extra help to evacuate, if you have a full or a part-time caregiver, or for example, if you use a wheelchair or somebody you know uses a wheelchair, and you're in one of these evacuation zones. If you're currently in a ready status, that's when you need to start making plans. Okay, everybody should be making plans during a ready status. What are you going to take with you when you're going to evacuate? Where are you going to go? Do you have plans in place? Do you have extra medications? All the things. And if you scan that QR code that they handed out, there's some great lists on there for you to go through. But if you are in one of those special categories, then you may want to take extra precautions. So we do have medical sheltering options that are available for people that are in those higher risk categories that may need that special attention. So if you go from a ready to a set, I would encourage you that if you have one of these conditions, chronic illness requiring medication management, if you have mobility impairments, or you need daily help, if you are dependent on oxygen or other special equipment, or if you have cognitive disabilities requiring support and supervision, if you meet one of those criterias or something else that you think you would need extra time for, then if you go from a ready to a set, you should start making considerations. Is that something that you now need to self-evacuate yourself from that area? Okay? We're not asking you to leave because you're not in a go status yet, but if the go status happens at 3 in the morning, which we don't want, but sometimes we can't control. Are you able to get into a vehicle right now and go somewhere? And if that's not the case, then you may want to consider self-evacuating. So we would just encourage you during that set status, if you are in that status or you go into that status, start making those plans, start making those preparations. And if you need help with that or you need a better assessment of your specific need or concern, you can contact Sheridan County's Public Health. I will be in the back corner here. We have a representative from Public Health who will also be there, and we can talk about your specific needs. So if it's the general population, we encourage you to go to the shelter if you have nowhere else to go, if you don't have a loved one or a friend's house or a hotel that you can go to. But if you need that special help or accommodations, come talk to us, call Public Health during business hours, and we're happy to assist you with that. I also just want to point out one more thing, that the sheltering up at the fairgrounds, they do also take RVs. So they have full hookups there, and we have plenty of space for RVs and trailers. So if that's a place that you need to go or would like to go ahead and go there. Additionally, mental health is obviously a serious concern in Wyoming during regular times, let alone this very stressful time. So we do encourage people that if you need mental health assistance, the VOA has a crisis team that is going to be meeting with people and has programs available. And again, that QR code, if you scan that on there, it'll give you information. They're having a special event on Friday. And then also, there's other phone numbers and contact information for you. So please take a look at that. We want to make sure that we're not only taking care of our physical health, but our mental health. And that's for all adults, but also remember children, right? We need to make sure that our children are also taken care of in the same way. And so if that's the case, I would also encourage you, talk to the school counselors in your school if that's a need that your child may have. So if you have questions, I'll be in the back. Thank you.
Thank you, Jesse. Our next presenter will be your Bighorn Chief, Fire Chief, John Warder.
Hello, and on behalf of my fellow volunteer fire chiefs, just a huge thank you to the communities stretched from north to south, just as Levi was talking about. You folks have just poured out donations, food, Patty and Parkman. Sorry, I know it's an emotional time for all of us, but just that extra love to your volunteer departments is greatly appreciated. And of course, we're always looking for new members too, right? So with that, you might wonder what we've been doing. Our job is to integrate with the fire team resources, provide some of that little bit of local knowledge of your all's land, and help direct them to some of those primary and critical values at risk that Andrew was talking about. So that's our job. And sometimes we can provide a little surge horsepower during the evenings when other folks need to be maintaining their rest. So again, just a huge thanks. That also brings me to just recognizing, Jesse touched on it, is just mental health. You know, all of us as firefighters, yes, we do dumb things during the day sometimes, then we come home at night and we're still just as dumb. So please, a little extra grace and forgiveness. I know family relationships get strained during these times, so thank you for that extra helping of grace. I wanted to touch really quickly on how you can help yourself. So Firewise USA, there's your website. It has a take action link on there, and then how to prepare your home for fire. That's what we've been busy doing here about the last week with Bighorn Volunteer Fire Department. We've had more time to prepare for it. Check out that resource. It helps give you a picture of what your landscape, your home should look like, and things to do. It's also offered me the opportunity to integrate with some of those primary homeowners up close to the fire and feel the stress that they're going through. It's not easy. So take that extra time, prepare in advance. There are not enough fire resources to take care of people. We're trying to help those who can't help themselves as easily. But anyway, huge workload there. Lastly, I just want to say thanks for continuing to pray for rain. Appreciate it.
Thank you, John. Our next speaker is our team meteorologist, Shawn Palmquist.
All right, good evening, everyone. Shawn Palmquist. So as it has already been spoken about, we've been stuck in this very warm and dry pattern September was the warmest September on record for the city of Sheridan, and we've seen no measurable rain for the last 21 days or so. So very unusually warm and dry for this time of year. I'm going to talk a little bit about our weather over the next few days. So we've still kind of been stuck under this very strong ridge of high pressure. It's been bringing warm, very warm temperatures and low relative humidity. In fact, up at Burgess Junction, we've been routinely getting into the middle to upper 60s, which for this time of year would be more normal for the city of Sheridan than up at almost 8,000 feet. So that's what we've been stuck in. Today we saw, some breezy westerly to southwest winds across the area, temperatures 60s to 70s, and even into the low to mid 80s with relative humidity way down into the teens. As we go into tonight, we are expecting to see those kind of westerly winds increase a little bit, especially up on top of the mountains, ahead of what we're looking at to be a weak cold front passage tomorrow morning. That system's will be crossing the Montana-Canadian border tonight and tomorrow, and that's going to send down a cold front from the northeast. So that'll come through mid-morning tomorrow, and that is expected to bring a slight cool down, a little bit higher relative humidity as well, and again, that northeast wind across the fire area. As we move forward in time, we are looking at a slight cooling trend Friday into Saturday, with winds really over the next, say, 48 to 72 hours doing almost a 360-degree switch. So we're starting out west today. Tomorrow we'll be out of the northeast and east. Friday we'll be looking at southeast winds, and then as we head into Saturday, as a system approaches our west and actually splits with pieces of energy going to the north and pieces of energy going to the south, it'll give us a northwest wind switch. Now, with that energy crossing to the north across Montana into the Dakotas, that will produce some wind. However, we look to be on the very western edge of that wind. And actually, over the last couple of days, our wind potential has been decreasing a bit for the Bighorn Mountains. On Saturday, it looks like we could see northwest winds with gusts up to 20. However, looking at cooler temperatures, they'll still be near to above normal, but cooler than we've seen. Higher relative humidity, and especially during the nighttime. After that, as we start looking towards Sunday and into early next week, we are looking at warm and dry conditions to continue. So, thank you.
Thank you, Shawn. Our next presenter is our team's Field Operations Chief, Adam Ziegler.
Good evening. I want to start out by thanking all the cooperators that we have here, all the local fire departments, ranchers. We wouldn't be able to be as successful with this fire as we have been without all their help. Between the local fire departments from all over Sheridan County, we've been receiving help day and night, and especially when this thing's been getting the big pushes, wind-driven runs, they've been out there assisting with us, helping us pick this thing up. And also the local ranchers that know the lay of this land. A lot of our team members aren't from here. In fact, most of us are not from here. We don't know the lay of the land. They've been in there integrating with us, showing the access, telling us where to get into these places, and without that knowledge being shared with us, we wouldn't be able to get in there and be successful. So a big thank you to them. Secondly, as Andrew said, this thing is behaving like a teenager. Not only is it resting during the day and up all night, most fires are up all day, sleeping all night, and they run uphill and not downhill. This thing's going downhill in the middle of the night, and that provides us multiple challenges. One, we can't see in the night, so we have a hard time, whether it's our heavy equipment, our engines, they can't see where they're going. The equipment's churning up dust, they get reflection off their mirrors, their windows, they can't see where they're going. And the engines have a hard time seeing where they're going also. And you have that really bright fire, and then you can't see the ground next to it. So it really slows our progress down when it's moving that hard at night. So with that irregular behavior that this fire is exhibiting, we're really having to change up our tactics from traditional, where it's pushing downhill on us like that, and it's throwing spot fires out ahead. We're not able to just go in and put a dozer line, a road grader line, and have that hold it. Retardant from the airplanes, that doesn't create a wide enough line for us. So as we speak, the crews are probably already going on it, but we've pushed lines, 2 parallel lines down across the front, out in the grass, away from the timber's edge, to get ahead of this thing. And what they're doing is a term we use more in prescribed fire is called black lining. So we're creating a black buffer ahead of this fire that will hopefully be done before this pushes on us again. So that'll be a wide enough line to catch that pulse, and that way we're not on the defensive again, we're on the offensive, we're pushing down. So the plan on this black line that we're building right now is to go all the way down. Sorry, I was pointing at the wrong spot on the map. So starting here at Big Goose Canyon, pushing down to Red Grade Road. So the plan is to get that all the way down to Red Grade Road, and the reason we're blacklining it is we don't want to have fire coming back up on the mountain, and then the winds will be able to outflank us. So we're down there getting ahead of it. You might see a glow, you'll see extra smoke. Heading south, that is our firefighters doing that and progressing ahead of this fire. We're going to hold up with that at Red Grade Road, and then we also have another group of firefighters that's working up through the Little Goose burn scar from 2007. That's a good canopy opening. It gets us enough distance from the live trees that the potential of spotting over that is thinner. And then we've pushed lines down in that Red Grade area up onto Poverty Flats and working our way around there. The crews are in there reinforcing the lines and then also preparing the structures down there. So when I talk about preparing the structures, there's a lot of different tactics that we use. And it's going to be different for every structure depending on where it sits, what the structure's like, and what we expect the fire impacts to be. So it could be putting line around it with hand crews, with heavy equipment, plumbing it, putting sprinklers around it using pumps that we put in nearby creeks, ponds. If there's not something like that around, we'll haul in portable tanks and haul the water in with water tenders, big tank trucks that are hauling the water up there, so we can have water spraying around those. In addition to this black line operation we have the watershed in Big Goose Canyon, which is a big concern for us. There's 2 ways we can mitigate that. We can exclude the fire from that, which the fire has already pushed itself in there, so we can't exclude the fire. So now we can reduce the fire intensity in there. So we'll be strategically firing as needed, and we'll use aircraft, whether it's UAS or drones or helicopters, to introduce fire high on the hill and allow that to back down with a low intensity so we don't have a lot of mortality within that timber stand. So we're not introducing a lot of sediment when the water runs off down into the water system. As far as other operations we have going on, clear up north, close to the Montana border, the Little Horn Canyon, the crews have been in there preparing those structures. They have sprinklers around all of them and have thinned out the brush around those and done really good work in there. They've also been preparing the 144 road in case the fire does push around there and we have to fire that off. They're also working, they've got line around this corner on the northwest side. They were helped with aircraft with retardant today to help keep that in check until they can get that hooked up here to a rock band. As we come around the northeast side of this, we've been able to get that into a containment. That's what the black line shows, is it's in contained status. That doesn't mean we're walking away from it, not looking at it again. That means we don't have any active operations going on in there at this time. So there's still fire engines patrolling, making sure everything's good in there, and then also aircraft looking at it as we go. And that containment status comes down almost to Tongue Canyon, and then once we pick up at Tongue Canyon, the resources are still patrolling and mopping up the active fire edge we have. On the west side, we have all the structures at Burgess Junction. We have 2 different divisions of firefighters that have been in there since the get-go, since we got here, and they've been in there prepping the structures. So they're in there with pumps and hose, setting up the sprinklers, working containment lines around those structures. If this fire does continue to move south towards those, they're all ready to go, and the firefighters are staged to have a good plan for everything that's going to go on in there. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. Our next speaker is our Air Operations Branch Director, Dennis Morton.
All right, good evening, everybody. As Cass mentioned, my name is Dennis Morton, and I'm the Air Operations Branch Director, currently assigned to Rocky Mountain Team 3, but my home team is Northern Rockies Team 1. And so busy day for us out there today, as it has been for most of the last week here. So I was asked to come in tonight and give you guys a rundown on the aircraft that are assigned currently to the Elk Fire. We have a total of 13 aircraft assigned, which it's been a long time since I've had that many aircraft under my stead. My team was out on a fire in Region 6 earlier this year in Washington, and we got around a little over a 50,000 acre fire with not one aircraft assigned. That's how tight they were on resources, and aircraft came daily, but they came from other places. So we're very fortunate to have the aircraft that we have assigned, and I'll go ahead and give you a rundown on the aircraft that we have, the 13 that we have. We have 7 Type 1 or heavy helicopters, 1 Type 2 or medium helicopter, and 2 Type 3 or light helicopters out there. We have 2 air attack platforms assigned. One of those is an MMA platform, a multi-mission aircraft, which I will get to a little bit later in the presentation. And we also have the 1 UAS that was mentioned as well, too, that has IR and PSD capability, which basically means it can drop plastic sphere out and light fire on the mountain for us, and it is an unmanned system, so we don't have to expose folks up there. And they're generally used to do smaller, more controlled burns. If we go to larger scale stuff, then we'll launch a helicopter with a PSD machine in it that is capable of carrying about 8,000 to 10,000 balls and can, more than that, about 20,000 balls, and can stay in the air about 2 hours and can light about 6,000 acres if the need arises. And I apologize for the notes. I have a lot to go over tonight. So I was also asked to talk a little bit about retardant effectiveness, and I'm glad that the PIOs put this picture up here tonight, because I'm going to talk a little bit about water versus retardant. We all know that water will put fire out, right? But once the water evaporates, it's gone. The difference between water and retardant is once the retardant dries out, it will still retard the fire's growth. The fire will eventually chew through it if it's being pushed by wind, but it will definitely slow that fire's growth until we can either get ground resources, boots on the ground, or get more aircraft in there to strengthen that line. And so basically, retardant in water is much more effective in the light, flashy fuels. As you'll see there, it makes sense, right? There's not a lot of stuff that's going to burn there. And you see the fuel change there. And you heard operations talk a little bit earlier about waiting for that fire to come down to the toe of the slope where the fuel change happens. You see it right there in the picture. The fire's a lot easier to fight when it comes down out of that timber into the flats, into that fuel model change where that retardant is a lot more effective. So it definitely works, and it works well if it's applied in a timely fashion, and it can definitely buy us a lot out there. It's a big force multiplier for us. And next, I'm going to talk about wind and smoke limitations. First, I'll talk about rotor wing limitations. When it comes to wind and smoke, FAA advises pilots a minimum of 1 mile visibility or pilot's discretion. Excuse me. We've had pilots out there flying in a lot less visibility than that out there. And we also have a Hilco platform here that's with us where we, excuse me, basically put an air attack into a Type 3 aircraft, and they are able to get down low in the smoke and see a lot better. Excuse me. For some reason, my voice is cracking here. So anyways, let me get back to where I was there. Excuse me. The supplement, I'm talking about the Hilco there. And then let's get on to the UAS a little bit. The UAS is a valuable tool for us. It not only can drop balls and light fires for us, but it also has real-time IR capability, as well as the multi-mission aircraft. That brings great capability in real time as well as mapping. We rely on NIROPS, National Infrared Operations, to fly fixed-wing aircraft over the fires at night to map the fires for us. Sometimes they're not successful, so it's nice, excuse me, for us to have that MMA aircraft available for us to use. So that's pretty much all that I have. I will be around after. If you guys have questions, I would definitely like to talk to folks if you have questions afterwards. So with that, thank you all for coming, and everybody have a good night.
Thank you, Dennis. And finally, now we're going to hear from our incident commander, Casey Cheesbrough.
All right, good evening, everybody. Again, thanks for coming out. Thanks for paying attention to all the information that's been going out there, caring enough to show up to this meeting and get the information that we can get out to you, ask the questions that you guys have. So just wanted to start out by giving you a little bit of insight to just kind of behind the scenes to some of our team operations. So every day at 12 o'clock, 12 noon, we have our command and general staff meeting. So it's myself, my deputy incident commander, and really the key 9 other staff members on our team. Our team includes, when we go out the door to a fire, around 80 to 90 people in that core incident management team that come out. And so those supervisors, that command and general staff, we meet together, no agency representatives, nothing, just our team. And that's our chance to look in the mirror a little bit, see how we're doing. And the first thing we do is we look at the objectives that we laid out at the start of the fire to make sure that they're still valid, but also to look in the mirror and see if we're meeting those objectives. So the number one objective, public safety. And so you already heard from Sheriff Dominguez about the evacuations, our evacuation planning, those things that we do to keep the public life safety and health safety, keep those folks safe. Number 2, always firefighter safety. And that's not really in any order. Obviously, that's equivalent right there with public safety. How do we keep our firefighters safe? And I'll get into that strategic planning piece where we really make those decisions to keep the firefighters safe. And before we get into strategic planning, just a couple others. We want to keep the public informed. So we have these meetings, we have the Facebook pages, try to get those videos out. And so we're hoping that we're meeting that need. If not, just let us know. We'll try to do what we can to make sure you guys are getting the information that you need. And then right in there is that relationships piece. And I'll hit on that at the end, but you've heard a lot about the cooperation with our partners, our other agencies, the county agencies, the state entities that we've been working with throughout this fire. So, so far we feel like we're meeting those objectives. And right in between all of that is really those critical values. We lay that out early on, and what do we do to protect those critical values? And so you've heard us talk about the Big Goose watershed, the primary watershed for the community of Sheridan. Sorry, I'm pointing at the wrong spot like Adam. So that's one of those critical values. And really at that strategic level, looking at all the structures, all the communities along the face of the Bighorns, all the way down to Story, Bighorn, where we are tonight, Dayton, where we've been spending our time, up around here into Montana with the structures that we have north of the state line, over into that little Bighorn Canyon. We've identified, obviously, that Burgess Junction area, the Sibley Lake area, all the structures and cabins and different things that are up there. And so once we get those identified, we start looking at those strategic actions. What are the things, at the big scale that we can do to protect those impacts to the critical values? And so we start looking at things like, could we go direct? The age-old question, why don't they go put the fire out, right? Why don't they just put it out? I would love to. That's the number one thing we look at every time. So just for a little context, every time I show a map to somebody, if I'm briefing somebody into the fire, the first thing I do is show them this part of the map, the scale bar, right? Because every blob like this to a firefighter, it looks the same. Every fire you walk up to, every map, you see a big red splotch on a map. But if you don't look at this part, you miss a lot of the context. So we're talking about close to 80,000 acres of fire. That's 224 miles as of this morning of perimeter line on the fire. So if we said we're going to go put that fire out, we would have to construct line, mop up, secure 224 miles of line. And that leaves out the fact of how tough and unforgiving that terrain is, the dangerous places that we would have to put people, the risk that we would incur to those firefighters to do that, but ultimately the probability of success. With the weather that we've had, the fuels conditions, if we tried to do that, I suspect we would probably win a few battles here and there, but we would lose the war ultimately. We'd have some success, the weather would change, it would outpace us again, we'd be having these runs 9-10 miles at 2 o'clock in the morning like we've experienced, and we would just be chasing the fire. And so what you heard Adam, our operations section chief, talking about, that bigger strategic plan to bring those firing operations down towards the red grade road, up the red grade road, the strategic firing operations in Big Goose Canyon, we feel as a team are really the way that we're going to have success in protecting those critical values. Ultimately, would love to get the fire put out. Mother Nature will help us at some point with that. But in the meantime, we're really focused on those critical values and not so much the acreage growth on the fire. So that continued smoke, that continued fire behavior, we know it's happening, we're keeping an eye on it, but our focus remains on those critical values. So just talking a little bit about our team. Like I said, we roll out with 80 to 90 people, that's the incident management team, and then we scale up. As the fire grows, as the activity grows, as the needs grow, we're up to about 900 people on our incident right now assigned to the fire, between the firefighters, the aviators, the logistics support, the folks cooking the food, the people running the shower unit for the firefighters, up to around 900 people. That doesn't even include what I consider to be our whole team, our bigger team, and that's where we get into all the cooperators that we're working with every day. Sheriff Dominguez and his department, Jesse with emergency management, the state entities, state forestry, the highway patrol, YDOT, game and fish, the local fire departments that we've been talking about, the local police departments, just instrumental, and they all become part of our team. And it's just been amazing to me as an incident commander. I take this team all over the country, and this has been some of the best support, some of the best cooperation that I've ever seen in doing this for a long time. And being from Wyoming, it doesn't surprise me that that's the way that it's going, but I just want to thank everybody that's here. I wish I could bring all 900 of those people in here with me. We'd pack the other half of the gym and then some and let them hear the thanks and stuff that everybody offers. But again, thank you guys for being here. Thanks for the support, and thanks to all those agencies and cooperators that are helping us with the success so far in this fire.